Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life Out Loud. I'm Junie Moon, your host, and I'm thrilled you're here again. Yay! And if you're new, well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am and what this is about. And for those of you who know me, well, maybe you'll learn something new. It's live TV. You never know what's going to happen. So again, I'm Junie Moon. I am a certified transformational shadow work coach and facilitator. And my mission is to help people get out of their way so that they can soar in their life. And I do that by helping them figure out their debilitating habits and behaviors that keep them from living fully, transform them, and help them to really stand strongly in their mission, whatever that is. So I work with people individually. I have group work. I travel around the country doing workshops. And I help people really shine their light because that's what we all need, right? We all need people to be shining their soul essence. And if you'd like to know more about my work, you can go to innercritictamer.com. And you can even pick up my free ebook, which is How to Tame Your Inner Critic. It's a great workbook. And so that's me. And because my mission is to help people soar in life, I really wanted to create an opportunity for people to hear other people's messages and wonderful skill set. And so I created Life Out Loud, this platform where I bring just amazing guests here. I get to hobnob with people that I absolutely adore and people that are walking their talk, pioneers in their work, that are making a difference and making a big impact in the people they touch and the lives that they come in contact with. So I get to be blessed with this time with these people, but I get to bless you, hopefully, with introducing you to them and having access to them because the chat room is open and you could actually ask questions. So without further ado, I want to read to you a little bit about who I have on this show, and he totally fits the bill. All right, I'm going to read it just as is because it's it's a great beginning. Fighter pilot, software engineer, poet, musician, father, student, teacher. These roles all add up to a lot of life experience. No kidding. And David McLeod, that's who I have, brings all of that experience to bear in his capacity as a transformational speaker, life mastery coach, spiritual counselor, and experiential facilitator. Since becoming deeply involved in personal growth work in 1995, he's devoted himself to understanding what it is that keeps people from fulfilling their potential. And that's in relationships, in business, in personal health and fitness, in every aspect of their lives. And as a result, has become a widely acknowledged expert in the area of psychic shadow. Even as he continues doing his own personal growth work, David devotes himself to helping people become the masters of their own lives. Having already helped thousands of people through various programs, David continues to offer several free services to people, including his daily affirmation program From the Magic of I Am, and his weekly webinar series, Life Mastery TV. And you can find out more about David at his website, daviddmcleod, MCLEOD.com. Don't worry, we'll say it again later. But that is who I have in the house. Let me say hello to David. Get him on the screen. Hello, David.
Hi there, Junie. Good to see you. Hey, who the hell is that guy? I want to hire him. He sounds amazing.
Yeah, he is amazing. And I am so not only blessed to have you on this show. Guys, I've known David for years. We actually studied the shadow work years ago. We've been friends for all these years. We're colleagues. We co-create things, and he is a rock star, and I'm so happy that you're here. So David, I know a bunch about you. I know I'm going to learn more about you today, which is really cool. Maybe start us
on live TV too, right?
What'd you say?
We're on live TV too.
We are live, and anything can happen. In fact, the email that I sent to everybody, I was like, when we get together, anything can happen. It's going to be fun. It's going to be thought-provoking. I really built us up, and I said how awesome we are, and then I said, how about that for claiming our magnificence? Because we do know our magnificence, but we also know how we get in our own way, and that's been our life work. So we're going to talk about that. But first, before we do, I really would love to have people get to know you a little bit more, and me too. So what have been some of the things that have shaped you in your life? What brought you to all this personal growth work and the ability to share what you do now with all these people?
Mm-hmm. Well, in a word, anger.
Mm.
When I was in my early 40s, my anger reached a level that was starting to have a negative impact on the people around me, and particularly my children. Now, this is not to say it suddenly magically appeared. You know, the anger had been developing over years, and people had tried to bring it to my attention. And naturally, anytime somebody said to me, "Why are you so angry?" or something, I would always say something like, "I am not angry. Leave me alone." I was in constant denial about it. But eventually, once I reached my 40s, it suddenly became very much in my awareness. And that's when I realized I had to do something. I had to change something in my life. Unfortunately, I didn't really know what to do. You know, as you know, Junie, and as probably many of these people who are on the show know, we tend to attract the people into our lives who, you know, reflect the kind of energy that we have. So as you can imagine, the people that I unconsciously brought into my life weren't much help, really. They were great at judging. They were great at pointing out all my flaws, but none of them had any real idea about how I could do things to improve my life. So I had to get away from that group of people. That's what I noticed. So I ended up coming down to Northern California in 1995, and that's really where the transformation started. I began to connect with people like you and me, for example, who had already done a lot of this work and who were able to help me see things in myself that I wasn't able to see for myself. And over the period of time, I guess, I started to release a lot of that anger, and I got down to what was underneath it. Mm-hmm. I got down to some of the old belief systems that had been, you know, creating my world the way it was. And in the process of doing that, I learned about shadow. I learned about unconscious beliefs. I learned about the masks that we wear. I learned about all kinds of amazing things that initially scared me. Mm-hmm. Because I thought, wow, if I reveal this about myself to other people, they're really going to hate me. And so I was really terrified of letting go of that and opening up and letting people see the dark side of me so that I could heal myself. But what I eventually discovered was the more I opened myself up, the more I revealed the truth of who I was, the more I made connection with people. It was like a huge surprise to me that rather than pushing people away, it actually drew people closer to me. And so that just really helped me deepen my experience of going inside and learning more about myself so that I could completely free myself from all of those beliefs, the anger and the sorrow that was underneath it, and then start to do some healing. And because of that, I just came to realize my purpose is really about helping other people do the same thing, helping other people stop their disempowering, limiting beliefs, and to become more aware of how they show up in the real world, mm-hmm. taking advantage of the mirrors that we have all around us to help us see who we really are.
Yeah.
So that's I'm sorry, that was probably a little longer than you had.
No, it's all good. It's all good. There was a lot there too. So I'm getting some feedback, David. Did you change something with the mic? That's so weird.
I'm not hearing it here.
How weird. I'm hearing me. Anyway, so a few things there. First, and I will definitely get more into when we open up and we open up our hearts and we share who we are, how everything shifts. That's certainly something that I know we're going to touch on later. But I'm curious. You said you were in an environment that you were surrounded by people that were reflecting a lot of what was inside of you. And mm-hmm. that you knew that you needed to get away and to find a different, tribe, so to speak, to help you heal. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people move and they find the same thing over and over again. They start seeing the same people in the same places. That's kind of what happens a lot because that's the part we need to heal. What was different for you? I'm curious, how did that shift for you where you started finding the support, the insight that you have now to actually guide you to the healing when you moved to California?
Wow, that's a great question. And, something I hadn't really thought about until you just brought it to my attention. But what I know about the time before moving to California was I had this deep, deep yearning to get past this stuff. I really had a deep desire to do something that would heal me in such a way that I would not hurt my children in any way. I simply didn't want that to happen. So I believe that what the difference was, I had a very, very strong intention to make a change.
Yep.
And so I think that might have just caused the whole, law of attraction thing to start to shift for me. The fact that I had that intention made all the difference in the world. Up until that point, I was just in denial. So I was continuing to attract those kinds of people who would, keep bumping heads with me, so to speak, rather than helping me to see the real truth. So I think that's where the shift happened.
Exactly. I think that is so true. I mean, I see that all the time with people, that we just get to that place of such pain and such discomfort, and we see the cost not only to ourselves but the people around us, and we're willing to do whatever it takes. And I do think that sends a message out to the universe that we're like, okay, I'm done with living the way I've been living. This hurts. This is not working. Show me the way out. And even if it's a little uncomfortable, and my God, you like moved so far away to a whole new environment, you weren't going to just accept what you were having before. You were seeking. And to me, that's the crossroads. That's when I see people that I work with, and I know the people that you work with, that's when things change, when it's like, as Tony Robbins would say, not another day, not another minute, not another hour am I going to continue to live this way. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make a change. Help me, show me, and I will be a good student. And I really think you called it in. So that's, it's beautiful that you did that. And now because you've lived it, what transformation is and what joy is. And you've reclaimed your magnificence, right?
Yes, thank you. And now I just want to say something here. I don't want to pretend for a second that I am completely free of anger or any of those.
What? Wait. You're not. I'm sorry. We have to stop the show right now. I only have completely evolved people on the show. David, I'm sorry. Guys, I'm sorry. I thought only perfect people are allowed here. Sorry to interrupt, but had to go there.
That's what I think a lot of people have this idea that, I'm gonna go to this workshop or whatever it is, and I'm gonna fix myself, and everything's gonna be perfect from there on out. Sorry, guys, it doesn't work that way. What happens is, I realized for me personally, the thing that I needed to do was change not just one or two things. I needed to change my life. For me, it was a complete lifestyle transformation. It was a complete shift in the way I had been thinking. And it doesn't stop just because I did the work, back in 95, and then more as each year went by, I did something new. I learned more stuff. So I am a lot less angry than I was. I still have my, I still react to things the way.
I'm not sure if you're still there, David. You got stuck. I don't know if you can hear me or see me. I'm going to just, oh gosh, I'm so sad. Well, I'm going to text him. And tell him, come back on. But yeah, what he's saying is really important, that it doesn't just change. We're not like done. We're always doing the work. Talk about multitasking here. I hope he knows that. Where is he? That it doesn't stop. The growth continues. Give me 1 second, guys. Live TV. Yes, here we go. David, no. So much for multitasking. Sometimes you just have to focus. Come back to me. Come back. Okay, so yeah, I mean, there's always work to be had. We're still evolving, we're still changing, but the inner voices that we have, like, and I'll speak for myself, there was such self-hatred. There was such a big inner critic in my brain that told me I was inadequate, told me that I wasn't good enough, that had me playing really small and safe. That's not to say that those inner voices are completely gone and that I don't have moments of fear or feelings of inadequacy, but the voices are so much less. They're more quiet, and the other things are way more present. So I'm continuing to do this journey, this life journey. I'm continuing to expand my spirituality and my consciousness, but I'm also having a human experience, and I still have the inner mapping, and it affects me. It just isn't running the show. It isn't running my life the way it used to. And so I'm able to have more joy, have more peace, have a different type of life. So when David was talking about landscape, well, that's my word actually, his, changing his lifestyle and inner thoughts and just his belief system, I always tell people that we are changing the inner landscape of our being. It's not even just the thoughts, it's our whole essence of who we are. And oh good, I see that he's completely not here, so that means he's coming back, so you don't have to just listen to me. But when we start to really shift our insides, and everything changes, and it's not just these moments, it's not just a weekend, but day to day, moment to moment, things hold, and we're coming from a different place of being. And when that whole landscape shifts, you can imagine from living in like the inner city where there's lots of craziness and people running around and lots of noise, to the countryside. It doesn't mean that when you're in the countryside, you're not going to have a rooster. I'm totally making this up, guys, but you're not going to have a rooster waking you up in the morning. It's like, okay, sometimes things are going to happen, and things are going to push your buttons, and things might take you out of your peace and maybe even ruffle your feathers, but it's not going to be the craziness. It's not going to be the overwhelm that you used to have. And so like even in my life now, and guys, chat room's open. So, if you have any questions, please, interact with me and feel free. I'm sure he'll be back in a moment, and I think he's here. So let me just finish by saying that, by shifting the inside and really creating a whole different inner landscape, you show up in the world in a very different way, and it's just not as chaotic. It doesn't mean there won't be moments of chaos, but your tool set will be different, your mindset will be different, you will be entering into your life in a different way, and so your whole lifestyle, inside and out, shifts. Welcome back, David.
Hi there. It's kind of like my life, I'm talking to you, and then you completely freeze, and I'm thinking, okay, who am I talking to now? And then what was funny about that, moments later, I thought, okay, I'll stop talking now and I'll just wait because maybe your system's gone. And then I froze. So I thought, okay, I'm rebooting everything and I'll get back on. Sorry about that.
It's all good. They had to listen to me yap for a few minutes. So just to bring you up to speed, I was just taking what you were talking about changing lifestyle, and talking about how when we shift inside, we shift, we grow, we expand, but life still happens. And we do get the curveballs, but we have new tools. And because of our inner landscape, because we've shifted, we're able to handle things in a different way. And the chaos doesn't feel as chaotic. And we're able to be more peaceful and joyful in spite of some of the crazy stuff that happens. But we're still going to get poked by life, and we're further down the road of transformation, but we're still working our stuff because we're human beings.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to just, I know I kind of went on there a little bit about, still feeling uncomfortable feelings. But as you say, because of the tools that I've developed and learned for myself, I am now far better able to deal with those things. So when I do feel anger, I can process it in a way that doesn't cause damage to anybody else. I can feel it. I can speak to whatever the issue is that's coming up. I can have a conversation with somebody instead of, the prior behavior where I'd often just lash out and push people away angrily and just say, get out of my life or whatever. Now I can just kind of take a pause. I can breathe. I can feel into it. And now I can be more present with the person. And I found that just being able to do that alone has made all my relationships so much richer and more valuable to me that it's been amazing. And the other thing I wanted to say is that my relationships with my children have improved dramatically over the years. Are they perfect? No, we still have our challenges, but they're sure a lot better. And I know that the stuff that I had before isn't coming out sideways and hurting them any longer. So It's been a wonderful journey. And, I part of my work now is to help people learn how to do this stuff, hopefully a lot more quickly than I did. You know, I don't want people to have to spend 40 or 50 or 60 years of their lives learning these tools. I want them to, you know, accelerate so that they can have amazing, magnificent lives far sooner in their lifespan.
Yeah. One of the things that you were mentioning is about children, you know, and for the parents out there, when we have this balance or inner landscape that we're talking about, where we have better tools and better communication skills. And the other thing that David mentioned before, the ability to open up our hearts and share more in our vulnerable place, that to me is such a gift to our children, to be modeling what clean communication is, what not coming out sideways looks like to be able to really hold the space for our children and show them what an open heart looks like, what safe vulnerability looks like, what connection, true connection can feel like without fear of somebody cutting your head off. And you know, and the sad thing is we're not taught these skills, and our, you know, I'm grateful I learned what I learned as soon as I learned it. But you know, my son, I think he was about like maybe 8 or 9 when I started to really learn these skills. So he had 9 years of the crazy person, you know. So you know, but thank goodness I was able to share what this can look like. So that's inside him too, and to be able to help people have access to this and teach them this, whether you're a parent or you're in the business. Absolutely, the impact on relationships is monumental. So how has that shown up in your life with your kids as adults? I mean, do you have good, clean communication? Do you see them doing that? Are they open to it? Because kids are going to have their own journey too. I'm just curious how that's been for you.
Absolutely. It's been really amazing. I think a biggest part of the healing for me with my kids was being able to go back to them and say, you know, I know that back then I was behaving like this crazy person. Right. I didn't have the skills. I didn't know what was going on. I still am not 100% clear necessarily on how I got where I got, but I know that my behaviors, my choices had an impact on you, and sometimes it caused you afraid or angry or sad or something, and you just didn't know how to deal with me. And I just really want to apologize for that and take full ownership for it. Yeah. It's amazing to me that just owning it is probably the biggest healing thing that we can do.
Absolutely.
And then giving them, my children, each of them, the space to say whatever they needed to say about it, and being able to just hear them without trying to defend myself, without trying to correct them or say, well, it really wasn't like that. Just let them speak.
Yeah, beautiful.
So you know, this is something, Junie, that you and I talk about all the time. I think one thing, probably the single most important thing that we all want in this world, is to be seen, heard, experienced, and valued in our lives. Yep. That's it. Yep. If we can get that, even from just one person in our life, it would be, life will be amazing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And we need to feel like we matter. We need to feel that we have value. And I think that's the perfect segue into talking about the topic today, which is magnificence. You know, so we have the outside, you know, perhaps telling us, somebody that sees our value and sees our gifts and can honor us and bless us. How do we connect on the inside to the magnificence? And maybe we could start talking about that. So how would you like to start about the magnificence?
Well, I think first of all, I remember as I was doing some of my work, I actually, during a process that I did, I came out of that process and I actually said out loud, I am magnificent. And something about it just felt so deep and so true. It didn't feel like it was coming from ego at all. It felt like it was coming from the essence of who I really am. And so I've fallen in love with that word, magnificent. And so I decided to look at, what does it mean, magnificent? And for me, as I understand the meaning of it, it means the process of making big, magnifying, really. And when I thought about it that way, I realized, oh, well, if I am making big, what exactly am I making big? Am I making myself big, or am I making the world and other people big? And I think that's where true magnificence comes from. It's that idea of claiming the truth of who I am and helping others to see the truth of who they are, so that the whole world can be a better place.
Yep.
That's kind of where I'm coming from with it.
Yeah. And as you know, I think the same thing. So the big thing, I keep hearing me talking, it gets me distracted. So the biggest challenge I see, well, one of the challenges around this topic is people being afraid to be big. They have the fear that if they're too big, that people won't like them. If they shine too brightly, they might be squashed. And all good reasons that they have that, because maybe when they did shine their light as a child, or did share something close to their heart, maybe somebody didn't accept them or love them the way they had so hoped they would be received. So then they squash it, they push it away. And here we are saying, embrace your magnificence. And people go, oh, but then I'll be selfish, or I'll be too big and bold, and that's too risky. So how might you invite people to enter into reclaiming their magnificence?
Well, I think that you've hit on a very, very important point. And it deals with largely how we are conditioned in our society. Everybody is taught from the beginning that you have to be a team player. You have to subordinate your own wants and needs to those of everybody else in the team. You have to, mommy and daddy say, well, your job is to make me happy. I mean, that's the kind of message that a lot of us get as kids. It may not be stated in those words exactly, but we see the behaviors that tell us, oh, what I'm doing right now is not acceptable to mommy or daddy. I have to change it. I have to do something different. So we look for strategies. We look for ways of maybe hiding those things that we think they don't like, and trying to find other ways of showing up that they are okay with. And so what we end up doing is creating the message within ourselves that, oh, it's not okay for me to just show up and be who I am, because if I do, mommy's going to say, oh, you're too big for your britches, or quit showing off, or this or that or the other thing. Mm-hmm. And so that we are inadvertently, by parents who just don't have the tools, we are inadvertently shut down.
Yep.
And we are kept away from our true light. And so what I try to get people to do is say, okay, that's true. That's what happened back then. Now let's just kind of drop and relax. Now I want you to look around and at all these other people and notice the magnificence within them. Are you able to do that? And almost everybody can say, yeah, I can see magnificence in that person who's over there saying, well, I'm not magnificent.
Yeah.
And when all of them start doing it, then there's just a kind of an opening that says, well, maybe I am a lot more magnificent than I thought I was. Mm-hmm. It gives people a little bit of permission. And then I just say, well, now just look inside and say, what are the things you really love about yourself? Just absolutely love. Well, I love that I love that I can write poetry. And then I write some pretty good poems. I love that when I'm sitting down and talking to my daughter, I can just sit there and be present and hear what she has to say. And I can feel that connection. I love that I have that skill. Anybody can sit down and itemize things that they love about themselves. And then you look at that list and say, well, that's a pretty amazing person. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I do it. And it does seem to work for a lot of people.
Yeah, when you were talking about looking around and seeing the gifts in other people, it made me think about the retreat that you and I are creating, and having everybody lifting each other up to a certain extent, to be able to be honoring each other, and to be really witnessing each other in our magnificence, and who we surround ourselves with, the impact of that. And so if we're able to see in other people, we have that within ourselves. We believe that because you can't see what you don't have. And that if you're able to give it to somebody else as an honoring and as a blessing, you lift them up, which also lifts us up. And then who we surround ourselves with, energetically, we're surrounding ourselves with that vibration of magnificence. And and it's something to think about. Who's in our life, and are people lifting us up, or are people squashing us, and what are we allowing in, and what do we need to have some boundaries around? But just that whole concept of making that list, I think that's brilliant, because we forget, and we forget the gifts that we have. We forget that the little things that make us so special, which aren't so little, and it can take us away from, I believe, the fear of, ooh, you know, I don't want to be so high and mighty. It's like the gift of poetry. I mean, how beautiful is that? Is that high and mighty? No, it's a gift. So those are really, really cool ideas, especially the looking around and noticing. I love that. That's really great. So I'm just noticing the time. I just want well, talk some more about the Magnificence. I wanted to lead people a little bit to your work, but we'll do that in a second. So you have these people that are not claiming their magnificence, their magnificence. They're afraid of shining. They're able to see it in other people, but they have these internal messages that tell them, you know, you're going to be squashed, or, you know, you're too big for your britches. So I know what I do. You do similar work. What do you suggest for our listeners today as maybe a first step, in addition to what do you see in other people?
Well, one of the things that I do for myself, actually, is I will sometimes, like you mentioned that I do this daily affirmation program, and I send out these free affirmations to my list every single day, and each affirmation is a statement written in present tense, starting with the words I am. And the idea is, I go through these every single day myself. I read the affirmation and I just notice how I feel. Sometimes the affirmation is something that is fairly easy for me to embrace. And, you know, I can just kind of be with it. I can meditate on it, and I can say, how can I bring that affirmation into my life today? How can I activate that part of me and just make it more alive? But sometimes, and this is where the fun begins, sometimes I'll have an affirmation that my ego mind just says, no frickin' way.
Great.
No way. So the question that I can ask myself then is, okay, is this something that I would aspire to be? And if so, what's stopping me from accepting it right now?
Great.
And that process alone simply allows me to open up and discover those hidden messages that I may not have noticed before. Like maybe I'll see something like an affirmation that says, I am a magnificent divine being of light and love, and I share myself generously with the world. Mm. Well, some people have a problem with the word magnificent. Some people have a problem with the word divine. Okay, what is the resistance? What is the resistance? And then I just look at that. What can I do then in order to step through that resistance to maybe embrace a little bit of my own magnificence and my own divinity and my spirituality? That's kind of how I do it. And it seems to help a lot of people. I get pretty positive feedback on all of these affirmations fairly regularly.
Well, first of all, definitely go to his website to get on that list, because that sounds awesome. Could you imagine having that in your mailbox each day? Well, what's the website? Let's just give the website right now, since we're talking about what the list is. What's your website, David?
Well, you go to magicofIam.com, and it's all one word, no hyphens or anything like that. Okay. MagicofIam.com.
Great.
And there's a section there where you can find the daily affirmation program.
Great. So the other thing that, one of the things I want to shine a light on that you said that I thought was so important was when you read or come across an affirmation or anything in your life that has you go, like that's not me, or there's some resistance or some discomfort, that you're like, cool. A lot of us are wired to go, oh shit, this is going to be painful, or, I better not, this is uncomfortable for me and I'm just not going to look at it. That you kind of went, oh, this is interesting. I have some resistance. I think that is a really crucial and exciting piece to this journey, which is curiosity. Well, what is that? Why am I feeling what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? What might be the resistance? What is the resistance? What's the belief system? What's underneath it? And to keep diving deeper and deeper to find out what's causing it. Because if you're curious enough and you get to the bottom of it and you shine a light on it, then you know what to do. Or at least you have a good first step. It's when we don't pay attention to these clues, like our emotions. If we feel anger or we feel fear, be curious and not, not, sometimes we feel such judgment about, oh, I'm really sad today, and oh my gosh, when am I going to ever stop feeling like a victim, and then we judge ourselves and make it even wrong, make it even worse. So what if you went, wow, I'm feeling really sad. What's that about? What precipitated it? What's the thought behind it? Why am I uncomfortable? Because if we get curious and are interested in what's showing up, that's where the healing occurs. That's when we could take really cool steps in changing it, shifting it, so that we can embrace this wholeness, this essence that we're talking about.
Yeah, one of the best questions that I've heard in relation to that topic is, okay, well, it's actually two questions. What is the resistance and the underlying belief that I have about whatever this is?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second question is, how does that belief serve me? And when I say serve me, I mean really, when we have dysfunctional or disempowering beliefs, on some level, they came into being because they served a purpose.
Yep.
They protected us in some way. If I came to believe that if I share my light, I'm going to be in trouble, there's probably some truth there. Maybe when I was 4 or 5 years old, I got slapped around by my parents or something if I showed up too bubbly or too flamboyant or whatever the word was that one of my parents would use.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I chose to hide it in order to protect myself and keep myself safe. The question then is, how does it serve me? If I can look at that, I say, is that belief still serving me today?
Exactly.
That's a really powerful question. Why am I still engaging in this behavior from 4 years old when I'm now in my 50s?
Yep.
Does it still serve me? So it's a powerful inquiry. And one of the other thing I wanted to say is, you talked about my oh, there's something there for me to look at. I like that because I'll tell you, 15 years ago when I started doing this really deep work, I wasn't that curious, believe me. I was always, oh my God, what am I going to discover now?
Mm.
But as I became aware of the fact that other people were not judging me because of what I was learning about myself, and I was then able to become more compassionate and less judgmental about myself, and I was able to become more curious. That was a nice upward trajectory. So now today, because I've done so much work on the really obvious shadows, now I'm saying, oh, I wonder what interesting shadows I'm going to discover about myself today.
Right.
Makes life a lot more interesting, believe me.
Right, absolutely. And without going too into detail about part work and shadow work, what I'm hearing is that part of you that came online at a really young age, that protector part that said, don't be too bright, don't shine too much, started to realize that there was a cost, a real cost in squashing that light. And that part started to quiet down and allow you to be curious, allow you to peek behind the curtain and see, the magician that's pulling the strings, and the fear was lessened, and you were able to take more risks because you weren't living in the past. Part of you knew you weren't a kid anymore, and part of you was brought up to present time to be able to go, okay, the risk isn't as risky, and on some unconscious level you shifted. And that's the work that you and I both do, is bringing people up to speed to honor that part
Exactly.
that has protected us all these years and had great strategies. And had you not shine your light for really good reasons, I squashed my light for really good reasons, until I realized I had new tools, that the cost was so much greater to not shine my light, and then to start to move past that fear, to embrace the fear but have it work with me instead of against me. And then the excitement around it, because now this work is freeing you up. And when you free yourself up, you touch everyone that you come in contact with, and the world changes. So I see that through the work you've done, and certainly the work I've done, and we do similar work too with our clients, that we have come to this place where we're not as scared anymore, because the fear that stopped us in the past, things have changed. The landscape of our circumstances have changed because we are adults now.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why I think, Junie, you and I, we connected, on a very deep level a long time ago. And, we've been talking about creating some kind of a crucible, some kind of a container for helping people to develop these tools and to go through what I'm now calling a journey to magnificence. And I call it magnificence for a reason. It kind of takes the edge off maybe the ego-based magnificence word, and it gets us down to the truth of who we really are. And so you and I, we're now in the process of creating a series of workshops that are all about helping people reconnect to that inner power, that inner truth of who they really are. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. We have a few more minutes, and yes, David and I have been dreaming and chatting and connecting for a long time, and we have such a similar vision for people and the work, and our passion really is to help people soar and connect to the truth of who they are, connect to their soul purpose. And we've done some really powerful weekends that have given so much to us. And because we have learned so much and have learned what works, what doesn't necessarily work, what sticks and what doesn't necessarily stick, and different ways to dive into some of this work, we have been brainstorming and co-creating this retreat that is bringing what we believe is the best of the best, that has given us sustainable transformation where we can connect to our essence. And so the first one's planned already. It's October 5th. And
woohoo, it's now public.
It's now public. Was I allowed to let the cat out of the bag? Cat's out. But we're talking about all these amazing processes of reclaiming who we are. How to clean up the gook, clean up the stuff that has kept us from being our true selves. And between his background and my background and all the pieces of all the wonderful things we've picked up along the way, I mean, it's really exciting. People are going to leave that workshop very different and very, very shiny and new.
Yeah, not to suggest that they're not already shiny, but that they've somehow dimmed their own light in order to protect themselves. And I am absolutely convinced that this is going to be one of the best workshops ever. And this is why you and I talked about, because we like working in smaller groups. We're not opening this up to like 100 people or 200 people. No, this is going to be limited to 24 people. And we're going to be bringing in people who are willing to do the deep work that's necessary to fully transform their lives.
Yep.
That's what we're up to here. And I'm just so excited about it, Junie. Just talking about it, I can feel the goosebumps and the tingle down my spine. So that's what it's all about, reclaiming magnificence. And that's the first workshop. We'll share details with the other ones as we progress.
Yeah. So that's one of the things is full immersion kind of experience. And again, as many of you have experienced weekends and workshops here and there, this is going to be a real dive deep, and not like this torturous, pull our hearts out and like, blah, kind of retreat. Though there'll be moments, there'll be some really powerful, transformative moments, but it's also going to be fun. It's going to be uplifting. It's about all of it, because we need all of it. I mean, I know I've been to workshops, and I know you have too, David, where it's just like you leave like completely exhausted and like just like your head is full, and you're wondering where your body parts, and you go out into your life, and maybe there's this something you're taking with you, but then it dissipates. I mean, one of the things that I'm loving about what we're creating is this full immersion experience is going to give people so many different pieces, and they're going to leave more whole than they've ever been before. So yeah, I'm so excited. We've been working on this for a while, and it's just I'm just thrilled to be doing this with you. I know between the two of us, we're gonna blow some minds and open some hearts and make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're going to be bringing magnificence into the foreground so people can claim it and live it and just be okay with who they are, no matter what is going on around them.
Right. So we're going to end on that note, because that's exactly what you and I stand for. And, if we keep opening people's hearts and souls up and get them to be all, you know, shiny and new. And I know what you were saying, that they are shiny, but, you know, sometimes we don't see it because we're hiding our light. It's really like ugh, stuff on top of it. We need to clean that off and sparkle it up. So that changes the world and everyone we touch, and that's what we're about. So I can't believe we're at time. What a shocker. Time goes so fast with us. So David, thank you so much for being here. Say your website again, please, for people to find you.
My personal website is daviddmcleod, MCLEOD.com. And you can also check out you'll find links to my other websites from there.
All right, great. And you can find actually his show linked on my show too. So if you go to lifeoutloudwithjuniemoon.com, you could find his show on there too. Again, if you want to know more about shadow work and my work, you can go to innercritictamer.com. And this has been just a wonderful time. David, so wonderful to share this space with you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
You're most welcome. Thank you, Junie, for having me.
So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for sharing this space. I invite you to make that list. Make a list of all the things that you love about yourself. You know, it doesn't have to be like these big, grandiose things, even, you know, though I'm sure there are. But, you know, make a list of the things that are important to you and qualities that you have that are special, and gifts that you have. And look around and see what you see in other people. And that's a really good start to seeing what magnificence really looks like. And just love yourself, shine your light, and then pencil in October 5th, because we're doing a 5-day retreat. It's going to be awesome, and we want you there. So blessings to you all. Thank you, David, and have a great day, guys.
Yeah, bye-bye.